try and make it unique to every page as well. You don't want the same meta description on every page. So you're looking at this as a way of like a sales tool as well. So why would someone click into this page? Your title is going to tell them what the page is about. Your URL is going to tell them what the page is about. But your content here is also going to tell them what the page is about, and it's sort of going to entice them to go and read the full article. So you may include a call to action in there as well. Right, something that a lot of people probably never get around to do, because it can be one of the hardest things, or most time-consuming ones to do, is have a really good linking structure, internal linking structure. So the more your website sort of links to itself, and while you don't want to overdo this, you want your sort of content to be talking is relevant. So if you're talking about, let's say you do a portfolio item, and your portfolio or case study says that, in this project I did content strategy, I did website design, I did WordPress development, I did some SEO optimization. If you have all service pages for each of those different items, you can basically go back and say, okay, link all those together. So it creates an internal link between all that content. If you're talking about, some other research you did in another blog article, kind of link all those together. If you're doing a series of articles, version 1, version 2, version 3, link all those together as well. So it's good to have that sort of structure set up, and if you can, make sure the links are going to the actual page. If you've done a 301 or change the page title of those, then make sure that you're linking to the actual page, not to the redirected page again as well. I think Henry has joined. Just give me a second. I'll just make Henry a co-host to help me out. Okay, so check for broken links. There's a few tools that you can use. I think there's a plugin just called Broken Link Checker that you can put in. It checks your website once a week, tells you if there are any broken links. It gives you an easy way to change those links or remove the links as well. Direct link to orphan pages. So orphan pages are basically like a page you might have on your website that doesn't have any internal links to it. Try and make sure that every page on your website that you want indexed has some type of link to it. It doesn't have to sit in your navigation structure necessarily, but make sure that it's linked somehow. Otherwise, Google will find the page, but basically see that it's irrelevant because nobody's linked to it. It's not linked anywhere. Link to your main pages first. So what that means is just making sure that your main service pages or your main sort of core keyword ranking pages are all linked to first, and connect those pages with relevance as well. When you're doing your anchor text, so your text that you want to link to the next one, make sure that those are nice and clear and easy for people to read. And again, sort of space them evenly throughout your article as well. A good rule of thumb is at least having one external link as well. I wouldn't go overboard with too many external links because you're losing that traffic, but it is good to have at least one external link. Just make sure that it's relevant. But yeah, you don't want one link per paragraph necessarily as well. But if you've got a 3,000 word article, you might look at having sort of 10 internal links inside that, possibly less. And the last one to talk about for this one is basically image optimization. So alt text is basically hidden from the reader, like I was mentioning before, and you can use these in descriptions basically as an opportunity to insert some keywords in. So this, as well as optimizing the size and the speed of your images, can increase the chances of seeing them appear in something like Google image search results. If they're seen in Google image search, then someone will come to your website, possibly read your article, go back to your homepage, find out who you are, what you do if you've got a good user flow, and then speak to you from there on in. But when you're sort of creating your image alt text, make sure it's as detailed as possible, mainly written for your screen readers first. So if you have an image of, let's say, two people sitting at a table having a coffee, that's the main thing that you would want to be writing about. You would say, man and woman sitting at a table having a coffee. You would probably want to put your keyword in there somewhere as well, but make sure that it's written for screen readers first, because the last thing you want to do is optimize it completely for SEO and then have nobody understand it. And you don't want to exclude anyone that is using a screen reading program to go through your website with just dumping your images with spammy keywords. So make sure that it's as detailed as possible about what's contained in the image, as detailed as possible but yet brief, and then if possible optimize for some keywords in there as well. So it might be two people at two people at a coffee table talking about web design, if you've got a web design article, for example. Okay, so there's probably be a few questions, but on summary, basically we've got this checklist that we've just been through that will help you sort of optimize your page structure and background points, to provide more proof to your page and overall website strength, relevancy, and value to search engines. So using these factors, Google and other search engines will promote your pages higher in the results list, allowing more opportunities for click-throughs through to your content. So most of these elements are sort of aimed at bots. We still want to make sure that we're writing our content specifically for people. It's simple, it's easy to understand, it's friendly, it's well researched, and your keywords are in there as well, so people see the value of your work. Once you perfect those, the on-page SEO, you can use these strategies to create templates to reduce your workload for other people to do it necessarily. So you might have a template that you've written the article, and you might get a VA to go through and kind of create some of this content for you and then upload that to your website. So for your website to rank well, it takes like every element on your site to sort of be carefully constructed and geared towards that. It is a pretty time-consuming element to get right, especially when your competition is quite tight as well. So it's these little tweaks that your competition may not be doing that can lift your website above the rest. So be sure to take the time to run some SEO crawlers through your webpage to give you a detailed analysis of anything that's not currently up to scratch, and get those fixes in place. So, alright, we'll go through any questions if you have any here. I think there's a couple in the chat. There's one question here. So does URL optimization include parameters as well? So typically Google wouldn't really love to index, and while I'm not the greatest person to be speaking about SEO, you basically want your URL to be as clean and clear as possible. I wouldn't worry too much about parameters or any query strings. So just make sure that your URL is optimized as much as you can in terms of the keywords that you want to use and having it as simple structure. Okay, Alison's got a question here. Before you write well, would you advise we look at Google, what are the keywords, and then integrate these keywords in for higher SEO? Basically, that's what you need to be doing. So you might have 50 keywords that you want to rank for. Some of those will be easier to rank for, and some of them may be impossible to rank for. So if you're looking at starting a web design business, if you're looking at ranking for something like web design, that's going to be a lot harder keyword than ranking for something specific like Elementor style web design or something similar to that. So look at sort of your main keywords first, and then you can look at your long tail keywords from there. But yes, keyword research would probably take up the most amount of time to work out first, what keywords from a business point of view or from a content point of view do I want to rank for. Throw them into one of the the tools. There's a bunch of them out there. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. You can even put it into Google autocomplete and just see some of the answers there. Just see what will come out in terms of alternative keywords, and then look at what are your core pages that you want to be ranking for, or what are the pages that are ranking and doing well now. Look at going and optimizing those pages first. So you can have a look at your Google Analytics, you can have a look at your Google Search Console, and see from those pages basically what are the ones that are doing well, and then look at optimizing those ones first. You don't necessarily want to be optimizing the ones that aren't doing well. Over time you do, but start off with the ones that you do want to rank. And you may want to go through a bit of an audit and say, look, I've got content here from 2012. Is it really relevant to my audience anymore? If it's not, then get rid of it, move it to another site if you want to still keep that content somewhere, or just sort of unarchive it or unindex it or remove it from your site as well, because Google has a certain amount of, and when I say Google, I mean most search engines, but Google has so much of the market that it's sometimes hard to remember the rest. But they have so much sort of credit that they will use to look through your site. So if your site has a bunch of broken links, if it has a bunch of errors, then all its spiders are going to go off in different directions, find different errors, and it won't index everything throughout your site. So the more correct, I guess, that your website is based on this basic checklist, the easier it is for Google to look through your content and optimize and index it. At the end of the day, yes, it does. If you're looking to optimize as much SEO as you can throughout your website, then you want to be changing. Say if you've got an article that's written about MailChimp, it may be something like why I love MailChimp. If you've changed the URL of that article and you've used some type of SEO plugin or redirection plugin to change the name of that article and keep your traffic moving through, then I think that's a good thing to do. You don't want any 404s, but over time, if you've got 100 links that are linking to a 301 redirect, if you're looking to optimize things as much as you can, then I'll be changing all of those. And you may use something like better search and replace. Chuck in the old URL, put in the new URL, and then just redirect, just rerun that through your database and change all these URLs. So it's good that they are linked, but internal linking should really link to the actual article rather than a 301 redirect. How do you go about, there's another one from Alison here. How do you go about doing backlinks? Do you need permission from the other sites you want to link to? Also with social media now prevalent, wouldn't it be less tedious to post on these platforms rather than do SEO to get people into your site? Couple of things there. So in terms of doing backlinks, you want people to link to your website.